Hello again. In the first little segment, I know we talked a little bit about the theoretical frames and how important those are, and also the worldview. And I think the point I hope I tried to make was this idea that finding a format or finding an approach that sort of fits for you. And I think what I mentioned was one of the things I was really looking forward to was sitting down with individuals and having a conversation with them. So for my data collection, that's what it came down to, and I chose to select 10 participants, 10 faculty members. And maybe if you're new to qualitative research, you might think, well, gee, that's not very many. You're used to huge data sets or big groups or things like that. And anyway, 10's plenty. I'll just say that because what I chose to do was to visit with each of my participants twice, each for an hour and a half, and I'll talk a little bit about each of those sessions as far as that goes. But again, going back to the discussion about kind of my worldview and this idea that I believe that within organizations, the players play a major role in sort of constructing their reality and constructing their paradigms and their models and their customs. So for that reason, that was a big part of the questions that I wanted to ask my participants was, how does those cultures come about, or why is it important to have some of these cultures and those kind of things? I also mentioned, again, the use of a theoretical model, and that, again, drove my questions as far as what I wanted to talk to them about to try to match that up. But because my theoretical frame was really based on some demographic components, Hagedorn in her theoretical model on faculty satisfaction really talks about changes in tenure or changes in rank, changes in or even demographic issues and things like that. So when I picked my 10 faculty, the challenge was to find what we call a sort of a maximum variation. So even though I had 10, my goal was to really get a variety of different folks. So the data collection part of it was a little tricky because I needed to sort of understand the complexion of my site, which is here at UH Manoa. So where I kind of started was to understand the population, what the demographics were, where folks came from and things like that. So I wanted to try to find a representation of that as best I could. And I knew with 10 it wasn't going to be possible to cover everybody. But I wanted to make sure that different ages were represented, different genders, even sexuality, if by any chance I could. Again, different ranks, different disciplines were all important things to me because I sort of was of the belief that there might be from very different experiences going on with folks, depending on where they were in the academy, where they were in what department, and sure enough, that kind of proved to be the case. So my data collection was set up so that we had one initial meeting, and the first meeting, because it was a qualitative study, it was really, really important to me that we take some time to try to develop a rapport. I don't know if this will make a lot of sense in the initial stages, but because you are the research document or the instrument, you the person are the one that gathers the information. So if they don't trust you, they don't like you, they don't believe in you, they're not going to really open up to you. So the very first meeting was designed. I asked them to bring 5 artifacts, and these artifacts were supposed to represent themselves personally and professionally. And I did the same. I brought 5 artifacts that I think introduced me. And that process, if I could ever encourage anybody to think about something like that, that would be one of my best advices. Because what it did is it gave us a chance to break down barriers. And I think the mere fact that I walked in the door and I had 5 things that introduced myself, I think immediately kind of set them a little bit more at ease. And what I found them doing throughout the discussion that took place that day and then on the other day is that they would refer back to it. They would say something like, oh, you were talking about your dad, and let me tell you about my dad. Or you were talking about this, and I want to make this reference to that. So that was just an enormously successful process. And what it did for me with their artifacts is it really contextualizes what they talked about. So that was kind of our first day. And the other thing that I asked them to do, and hopefully this is something that Dr. Cooper shares with you in the class, was ask them to create depiction of their academic journey. And this was kind of a little strange, but basically gave them the opportunity. They could draw a picture, they could do a map, they could do an oil painting, they could write a poem, a haiku, they could do just about anything they wanted. And what I was really looking for is, number one, how they chose to represent themselves. But really what I was looking for in that process was sort of common symbols, common issues, common icons that may define sort of the academy and their experience of the academy. But in the process of them explaining their academic journey to me, again, really opened up a lot of things about who they were and what was important. What I was able to do from that first hour and a half session, with the introduction of their artifacts, with the introduction of their depiction, was really take that and then start to look at my semi-structured questions and customize those for the next time. So our second meeting was, again, an hour and a half. It was really a little bit more of a formal, semi-structured, but I really started with this idea that I would say things like, I really want to follow with what you said in your academic journey. You had this situation that took place, or you had this confluence of a personal issue versus a work issue. You seem to talk a little bit about your family in regards to different things. So it really gave me a chance to pull out some of the things that were sort of important to them and really drill down a little bit deeper in my semi-structured session, with them. Both sessions were audio taped, recorded. It was, I'll admit, a little tricky to try to get 10 faculty members at a Research One institution to sit down with you. It took an enormous amount of perseverance, especially when I was trying to find a variance, a maximum variance. I wanted to make sure I had somebody that represented different departments and things like that. So just an enormous amount of patience, perseverance, humor, cajoling, begging, whatever it is that you may need to sort of get them, to the table. But I think maybe my last advice as far as that data collection is just, you've got to be crystal clear with what is it you want them to do. You need to be crystal clear with what their time constraints are going to be, because these are extremely, at least in my case, working with faculty at a research institution, they're extremely busy people, and I didn't want to waste their time at all. So anyway, good luck on your data collection. I have to tell you, just on a personal sense, I loved sitting down and talking with my participants, especially after hours of doing literature review. So good luck.